As well as providing protection and nourishment for the world, the tree was said to suffer anguish and bitter hardships caused by the very creatures it sustained. The stags and squirrels stripped it of new growth, and Nidhogg gnawed at its roots, as did countless other serpents. In this way, the tree knew the tribulations of the universe at every level and suffered just as much as those who dwelled on it. To counteract this damage and pain, the Norns, who resided in the well of Urd, tended to the tree every day by pouring water and mud over the branches so that they would not rot away. The water was so holy that everything it touched immediately turned as white as the delicate film inside an eggshell. As guardian to the whole world, Yggdrasil was the supreme example of a widespread belief in trees' protective qualities. In Germany, Scandinavia and the British Isles, particularly trees beside buildings were venerated, and the welfare of the family or community was seen to depend on their health. Offerings were made to them. For example, ale was poured over their roots. Temples also had guardian trees. Adam of Bremen, in his description of the temple at Uppsala, refers to a great evergreen growing close by. Details of this description are remarkably similar to those of Yggdrasil in Norse poetry. The tree's broad outstretched branches offered shelter to the temple, and there was a sacred well at its foot. The Norns were the shapers of destiny. They were female supernatural figures who were thought to determine the destinies of individuals. 3 particular Norns lived by the well of Urd, but there were other Norns as well, both benevolent and malevolent, who could reverse a person's fortune at their whim. Of the 3 principal Norns who lived in the well of Urd, or the well of fate, situated beneath one of the roots of Yggdrasil, one was actually named Urd, while the others were Verdandi, being, and Skuld, necessity. They were said to determine the lives of men and allot their lifespans. According to the Velaspa, they cut on wood, which may refer to the action of carving magical runes. However, the word used for wood in the poem also refers to a large plank, and it was customary in Norway to record dates and numbers of days and years by cutting notches into the wooden walls of the home. So this term may just mean that they recorded the days in an individual's life. Other Norns were thought to visit each child as it was born to determine events in its life. A runic inscription found in a church in Bolgunde, Norway reads, "The Norns determine good and bad things, and they have brought great sorrow to me." These Norns differed in their origins. Some were divine, some were of the race of the elves, some of the race of dwarves. An individual's fortune and quality of life were explained by the origins of the Norns that was believed to protect him or her. Good Norns of divine lineage were thought to influence lives favorably, but misfortune was associated with malevolent Norns, thought to descend from baser ancestry. Norns were also sometimes pictured allotting destiny by spinning. In the poem Helgag Vida, Hundings Bana, the lay of the Helgi, the slayer of the Hunding, the Norns are depicted spinning and weaving the threads of Helgi's fate. The Norse deities were not always worshipped in elaborate temples and holy buildings. Sites of natural beauty were sometimes chosen as idyllic settings in which to venerate the gods, and frequently they were not even marked by a monument. The Roman historian Tacitus described how the Germans did not confine their worship to a domestic forum, but also consecrated open forests and groves. Many Scandinavians, particularly those who settled in Iceland, also chose natural venues as their sites of worship. Literary sources tell of sacrifices brought to groves, rocks and stones, which were believed to represent patron gods. In the poem Hyndluljóð, Freya tells how her human protege Ottar set up a cairn in her honor. Sacred places may be chosen for their outstanding beauty. One such site was Helgafell, or Holy Mountain, in Snæfellsnes, western Iceland. Thorolf Mostöbeard, a devoted follower of Thor who immigrated to Iceland, held this mountain to be as sacred that no one was even allowed to look at it if they were unwashed, and no living creature, man or beast, was allowed to be harmed there. The same Thorolf also held a sacred place where the pillars of his high seat, removed from a previous site and brought on the journey, had washed ashore. Deeming this to be somewhere holy that Thor had divinely guided him to, Thorolf gave orders that it should never be desecrated with either bloodshed or excrement. Unsurprisingly, the site was indeed desecrated after Thorolf's death. Following an assembly held there, a rival family declared that they were going to follow their normal custom and relieve themselves. They then proceeded to do so with much show. Thorolf's son and his men attacked them for this affront. A fierce fight ensued with blood spilt on both sides, defiling the holy ground even further. After this incident, the temple and the assembly were removed to a fresh venue.